we will, I think, continue this kind of neurotic behavior until it either is our undoing or until we awaken to archaic values. And that's why the weekend is called what it is. And the archaic revival is a very large cultural wave that, you know, can be pushed. You could trace the beginnings of it, the first swell, back to the turn of the century with relativity and theosophy and surrealism and the work of Freud and Jung on the unconscious. But it's a discovery, a moving toward a realization that the values that can serve us are archaic values, that we have to go completely outside of history. And we have to make, we are going to find out the nature of human nature. We can't have it several ways. We can't live in obfuscation. The real question is man good? Because we're going to find out. Because as we move more and more into this cultural domain that I call the imagination, nothing lies between us and the expression of our dreams, And so far, our dreams have been, I think, expressed fairly shoddily. Our cities are like sores. Our contribution to the ecosystem of the planet is plutonium, pesticides, chlorofluorocarbons, so forth and so on. An apologist for the human race would say, but we had so many strikes against us. The law of gravity, the cost of materials, the resistance of water, air, and so forth and so on. Well, fine, then we're going to get rid of all that. We're going to enter into the imagination where, the tensile strength of a structure is whatever you say it is. This is where language comes in, I think. Language is the sort of the CAD-CAM, the computer-assisted drawing software for creating the reality of the imagination. I think it's overwhelming, our situation, the potential and the depth of the strikes against us. It's really, what's going on this planet is absolutely unique so far as we know. It's never happened before on this planet. Intelligence emerging out of biological organization and actually having a shot at what? Who knows? Being itself is some kind of opportunity. The reasonable expectation is that nothing exists. Well, why should anything exist? It seems to me the most conservative universe would be a dimensionless plenum, a homogeneous, pointless, dimensionless. That makes sense. Why, then, is there instead, multiplicity upon multiplicity? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, stuff like that. How in the world do you get from utter emptiness to that kind of thing? The richness, the creative force behind it all is awesome. And I'm not religious in any ordinary sense. And in fact, I'm violently anti-religious in most senses. I'm certainly would lead the charge against priestcraft in any form. But the picture of the universe as a machine subject to a few laws discovered by a bunch of guys in powdered wigs, that's ridiculous. You've got to be kidding. Science doesn't deal, as it's always at pains to point out, with what's called subjective experience. Well, that's really too bad, because that's all any of us ever have, is subjective experience. So we have, in the interests of, I don't know what exactly, a curious drive, an obsession of the Greeks, really, an obsession with the physical world, that we have not been able to disentangle ourselves. It's so that, we can measure the temperature of distant stars, but we don't know what we think about the woman we're living with. Stuff like that. Just such a completely overgrown and overdeveloped dichotomous situation that it makes no sense. So, in terms of any kind of conclusion or something like that, it's that there is an experience. It's harmless, meaning it can't kill you. That's the guarantee there. There is this experience. It is in our cultural heritage. It synergizes the most profound and private dimensions of our being. It allows us to recast ourselves in new forms quickly. And if we don't turn back toward this style of relating to ourselves, to each other, and to the world, but persist instead in the addiction to syntactical abstraction, then I think we'll just run it off the edge. And it will be a tragedy, because it is a horse race. Don't let anybody kid you. It's not that the good guys are miles and miles behind, and so you just might as well tear your ticket up and throw it in the air and go home. No, it's an absolute horse race. Neck and neck, photo finish, race between education and disaster. I mean, we're going to either burst out into a millennium of freedom and caring and decency, or we're going to toxify the whole thing and just turn it into an ash heap. And the responsibility falls largely on us. And we don't know. I mean, the momentum, the lethal momentum of these institutions is terrifying. Our position is like that of people who are attempting to turn a battleship 180 degrees, and we're doing it with an oar, I mean, the momentum of it is incredible. But it is not a closed system. And I say this as a reasonable person. I mean, I want to keep stressing that I won't sit at the same table with the channelers and the people who have good news about Atlantis and all of this stuff. I mean, if this is your private thing, it's okay, but the rules of evidence preclude it being taken seriously until you get your act more together. But in the psychedelic experience, there is confounding paranormal material. It's the only place I've ever found it. I scoured India. These guys, as far as I can tell, it's a skin game. But outlandish things are going on inside the psychedelic experience. It seems to imply the thing we had hardly dared hope, which is that the world is whatever you say it is if you know how to say it right. And then the whole task becomes, how do we take control of this language that allows us to say it right? I think I speak for most people here, serve the idea that matter is ultimately at the command of mind, but we need to move that forward as a demonstrable principle, because without that, the fear of most people is that we're imprisoned by physics in a sinking submarine. And yet when you go into these psychedelic spaces, what you discover is that all bets are off, that we can't even tell how weird it is. I mean, it may be possible to walk to Arcturus if you have the right set of coordinates. And the whole concern is to get the word out, to spread this meme, to empower people to confirm the existence of these realities for themselves, and to begin to form a kind of community consensus about it. It's only, I guess, in 1992 we will celebrate the 500th anniversary of the discovery of the New World. 500 years ago, people discovered the other half of this planet, and we're living there now. This is the New World. 500 years ago, this didn't exist. What existed was a vast cataract patrolled by sea monsters, and the oceans of the world poured off this cataract into the infinite abyss, and that was the edge of the world. We, the psychedelic people, are like these early explorers coming back and saying, you know, I sailed west for 16 days and I didn't go mad. Instead, this is what happened. And I bring news of this, this, and this. And what we're accumulating are like the diaries of explorers. But there's a world there. It's a mental world, yes. But we are mental creatures. Take note of that. If we could go there, we would go there. And the thing is, we don't know that we can't go there. We have never taken the imagination seriously. We have never taken the self-management of culture seriously. We've always sort of thought things should just go along like a random walk. But now, because of the immense technical power that's come into our hands, the design process of the whole planet is now on our desk. And we're being asked to essentially step into stewardship of the entire planetary environment. We have to have then a vision. We have to have a dream, not a vision or a dream, the vision, the dream. And it can't come from the personality of individual human beings. It has to come out of the bones of the planet. Yeah. And this is, I think, what the psychedelic experience is broadcasting. It's broadcasting the hologrammatic, fractal, altogether, all at once image of totality that our religions have sensed and called God, that the shaman have learned to use as a vast kind of computer for extracting information and for generating healing energy. But it is that there is some kind of controlling, minded, integrated thing behind nature. And we're not going to understand that this weekend, next week, or ever. This is not a relationship of solving a problem. It's a relationship of being an initiate of a mystery and then living your life, you know, in the light of that. And the task of understanding is endless, because understanding is simply the integrated coordination of pattern. And nature is pattern upon pattern, upon pattern, upon pattern, upon level. It has no depth. Its measure cannot be taken. Everything is infinite, and everything is animate, and everything is filled with a kind of deep concern for humanity. I mean, we are the lame little brother because we seem to be cut off from all the rest of this.